some people might hear this music and use a phrase like, say, it's like derivative of Donald Fagen or Steely Dan. But I have to say that albums like yours and Jay's stuff he does with Randy, Jar, the new John Harrington album that's coming out soon, I enjoy listening to that music as much as, and possibly even better than a lot of what Walter and Donald do these days. So I think it could be a case of the student becoming the master.
Well, that's nice to hear. And, derivative of has a pejorative tone to it. And, I hate to hear that. I'd rather hear inspired by or even similar to. You
had mentioned earlier there was a period of time when Steely Dan wasn't really doing anything and somebody needed to sort of fill that gap. The problem is a lot of people may want to fill it, but having the talent to do it is a different matter. I mean, when Jimi Hendrix is gone, Robin Trower and some other people kind of stepped up and tried to, I don't want to say Trower's derivative of Hendrix. He reminds you of Hendrix, but he does a lot of stuff that Hendrix didn't do. So, I'm just saying is that when I listen to this music, it makes me think, wow, I would like to go see a concert where like Donald Fagen's the headliner and, this is on the bill.
Hey, there's an idea. Concert promoters, you listening?
That's right.
Yeah, I mean, my whole idea when this whole thing started, which is over 20 years ago now, was why should that kind of strain of pop music with those juicy chords and combined with R&B grooves, why should that have to disappear just because Steely Dan is taking a hiatus, So I stepped in there.
Definitely. And speaking of touring, I mean, what are the plans for live shows with this? I mean, as you say, you've got guest players, you've got a lot of horn parts, strings. I mean, is there going to be a touring version of Monkey House that's going to promote this album?
Yes, and it will have all the guests and the Prague Philharmonic. No. I'm just kidding.
I'd pay $8 for that concert ticket.
Yeah, we're definitely going to do some live dates, and there may even be 2 versions of Monkey House. There might even be kind of a West Coast permutation of it with totally or partially different players. But it wasn't that long ago that we wrapped the album. And before I let this go by, I really have to comment on the mastering on this record. We've been working the last few projects I've done with a guy named Peter Letros, who has a place called Rec House Mastering in Toronto. He used to be the house guy at Sony up there. And this guy, that line of work, you get a lot of kind of tech heads who are more about the gear than the final product, or more about their agenda than just polishing the artistic statement. But I mean, this guy, without fail, makes me like everything 15 to 20% more by the time he's done with it. So awesome. I just wanted to give him a shout out.
One thing I wanted to bring up too is the artwork, which people can't see at the moment, but they will. It's like sort of an overhead shot.
Yeah, that was just a painting that caught my eye of a very dear friend out here now named Richard Greenberg. And Susan Thacker, the artist who did this cover image, is a cousin of his. She was based out here at the time, but she's in New York City again. And she had a whole series of paintings which at first glance are sort of hard to interpret because they're direct overhead kind of street scenes. So you might be seeing the eaves trough of a building, and you're seeing lines on the street, and you're seeing these slightly abstract images of people walking. And I just thought, now technically nobody in that picture is walking to the left, but it's kind of out of left field, and it's kind of a cool perspective. And she was very delighted to have one of her paintings become the album cover art too. So it was a win-win all around.
I appreciate you explaining all that, because I was wondering how it fit in with the concepts, and the some of the colors used are really nice too, because that's one of the things we have these days is there was a time when you had a gigantic album cover, and now it's, even when I design podcast logos and stuff, I think, what is this going to look like in this size and in this thumbnail and in this, and
right.
Well, how should I do the lettering? How should I do the coloring? And it's a consideration. So
it is, and I think because of what you just said, the canvas is smaller now. You have to be, you have to have and kind of at a glance impact on people, and people aren't necessarily going to look through your whole album cover and see which outfit everyone on the Sgt. Pepper cover is wearing. You just have to do something eye-catching that's going to draw people in. And I have this sort of tradition of not having myself ever on the album covers. I instituted that right away when we started this thing, because I wanted it to be about the music, and also it had the an added advantage of nobody cares or knows whether I'm growing older as the project continues.
It seems like there's been some McCartney stuff that's come out where the album cover's been him from years ago, like a younger picture of himself.
Right.
That's one of the tricks you can use. And people
Yeah.
don't stop and think a minute. Wait a minute. That's not today's Paul. But you're so used to seeing images of him.
Yes. Well, in this Monkey House album too, there are a couple of band pictures of the core four of us.
Definitely.
One where we're trying to look really serious, like a rock band, and then one where we're just cracking up because of how serious we're trying to be. I always like a photo shoot where they allow people to talk.
Yeah.
Because then you can sort of bust each other's balls and tell jokes and kind of keep it light, as opposed to you're going to stand by this window and fold your arms and you're going to look straight up and you're going to sit on the organ and the drummer's going to be 20 feet back doing something else.
The photographers sometimes, they're trying to pose everybody, and they have to remember they're not mannequins.
We're not chess pieces.
Yeah, exactly. There's a person. The photographer I work with, you want everybody to look in the camera. You want the eyes in there. That's one way to do it. But I kind of like pictures with a little bit different poses. Not necessarily just staring off into space, but you don't want to sit there and have an artistic discussion because then nothing will ever get done. But, I mean, the basic thing is like, meat sack, move over there. Other meat sack, move over there. Like,
right. Or the blood bags, as Graydon calls them.
I think C.J. Vance had said on the movie sets, they refer to extras as props that eat.
Eat KFC at the craft services table.
Right, because he had done A Mighty Wind, and I asked him if there was a big audience. He said, well, the top tier was like cardboard people. You can buy them. It's cardboard cutouts of people. And he goes, yeah, well, and then that's when he had used the phrase, because I guess they got all the shots they needed and they came in and had everybody leave. But
well, you can be sure in that shot in the Monkey House package where we're laughing that Kelso was talking some shit.
What I like to do is say a joke right before, so
right.
People can't help but laugh. I try to. There's some people say, make a fart sound or whatever they do. Something to try and get people to relax.
The dumber, the better.
I think so. I think it's brevity. You can't have like a long setup and a long punchline. It's got to be something quick, and then the photographer can take advantage. Kind of like when your little kids are taking a picture and you try and wave at them and distract them so you can get that one moment. But yeah,
are you saying that musicians are childish on that level?
I would say there's always a comparison between children and musicians.
Tom's body language is saying yes.
Tom is one of us. But we do have some more music to listen to. But before we do, I want to do some thank yous. And I also want to talk a little bit website. There really isn't a home base for Monkey House in terms of a website. So you want people to go to iTunes and find the album, find you on Facebook, that kind of thing?
Yeah, I mean, the best places to go are your usual retail, online retail, sources, Amazon, etc. And then you can actually buy it directly from the Alma Records website. I think they're also quite soon going to be selling the full 192. So if you're an audiophile, you can have the super polished platinum audio version of it. But I mean, the emphasis at the moment, actually, to be frank, is to get as many digital sales as we can in the early going, because an iTunes chart position is meaningful, and kind of early loyal support from people makes a big difference to the distributors here in Canada, in Japan, everywhere else.
So everybody listening who wants to buy this album, don't delay. As soon as this podcast ends, immediately buy the album.
And please, if you like it, tell your friends.
Tell them about this podcast, because it's an advertisement for it. Think of the poor people who have to listen to the album without the advantage of this conversation Don and I have just had. They're not going to know about Uga Chakra.
Exactly.
They're not going to know about his personal problem that Jay did an intervention for.
Right.
But
okay, I got to get my own copy of that little soundbite from Jay. That's gold, baby.
No problem. I don't think he expected me to actually use it. I think he just wanted to mess with you and then keep the nice, polite part in the show. But hey, knowing Jay, we got
freedom of information.
We got to represent him for as he truly is. So since we're doing thank yous, thank you, Jay Graydon, for contributing not only to this podcast with your custom-made clip, but also for your excellent playing on the album. Thanks to Mark Kelso for his contribution. Thanks to Tom Bowers for his engineering and editing. And thanks to you, Don. Back on my 5-year anniversary show, you contributed an audio clip for that. So I appreciate it. And one more thing about thank yous. I saw my own name in the liner notes for this album in the thank you section. So I said, well, this album has to be genius if it's got my name written on it.
Damn right.
So we're going to talk about another song, which is going to be the last song we're going to hear. I know you're friends with Paul Schaefer. David Letterman's gone now, but Kim Mitchell, returning guitar soloist from Headquarters, great Canadian guitar hero. My top 10 list. What's this about?
Well, like a lot of music nerds, I'm a list freak. So the top 40 of anything or the top 100 of anything or the top 1,000 of anything is of great interest to me. And I was always a little chart freak as a kid, going into the record store to get my hard copy of that week's chart, or see it posted up on the, behind the counter at the record store. And I just flipped it into forget about what my top 10 music is. What are my top 10 things? And I won't sell it too hard here. I think you'll hear it when you hear the lyric.
We will, but I just have one little bone to pick.
Yes.
Podcasting, did it make top 10?
Well, you know what? If
doesn't roll off the tongue in the song.
It doesn't. The 3 syllables was too much. But I got to say, I mean, podcasting is my number one form of entertainment. If you go by hours spent listening in recent years, like I love the fact that you can have these small communities of people with just like-minded individuals and shared interests, and we don't have to be all things to all people. We can just dial into what we're all interested in and really go at it.
Oh yeah, it's narrowcasting. When Scott Sherrard was here, we talked about this as well. About, I think his first one was Mark Maron.
Yeah.
That brought him in, and then I think my own experience and my opinion is, once you get into that, if you try regular radio or the other sort of more general broadcasting stuff, you realize it's not nearly as satisfying, and so you sort of get hooked. You get the bug, and
right, and there's not as much money at stake, as you well know.
Right,
but it allows you to really indulge, and if you want to go down to a microscopic level on something, people come along with you because they're just as obsessed / interested as you are.
Well, that's the thing. My guests on the show, myself, and the listeners of the show, we're all just like cut out of the same cloth.
Right.
We all want to delve deep into it. We want to find stuff that's worthy of our time and attention. And, the big national outlets, like we talked about earlier, they want to have the name recognition kind of stuff, and it's not so much about quality. Where when you do something like this that's grassroots, personal freedom, no control over it, we're the people who are not just in music, there's people that are analyzing TV series or, a director. There's a podcast that is going through the movie Goodfellas minute by minute. Each episode of the podcast discusses 1 minute of that film, So you can do anything you want, and if you do it and you do it well, there it is. So yeah, podcasting is here to stay. The reason I know it's here to stay is there was a time early in all this, because I got into it fairly early, where you had that extra thing explaining to somebody what a podcast was.
Right.
Now everybody knows what it is.
That's over now. Yeah, I mean,
presidents have been on podcasts.
Other than your, specifically
Mark Maron.
Obama was in Maron's garage.
That's right.
But I think that once you get down to the level of, who played on what track, on what record, then you're sort of giving an invitation to all the people like you and me who read every word of the liner notes on every record they ever bought and connected the dots and got interested in players and arrangers and background vocalists and all the rest of it.
It's been kind of a boon for the quote-unquote sidemen, because they get to sort of get a little bit of attention, like Lee,
Right.
A lot of people might recognize him from a Phil Collins video or something. But when you have him sitting here speaking about his career, it's pretty amazing. And in a way, it's almost better people like him, because he's Hall & Oates here, James Taylor there,
right,
Jackson Browne here. He's like had his little hand in tons of stuff we all know. It's really pretty fascinating.
Yeah, and that's not by accident that somebody like that ends up on all those great records. I mean, it goes both ways. They're great records because he's on it.
True enough. So this has become the Lee Sklar Show. So.
Okay.
Well, I'm going to forgive you for not mentioning podcasting in this song, and we're going to close with it. I want to encourage everyone to go buy Monkey House Left, and after you're saturated with that, buy Monkey House Headquarters. Then read Don's books, Precious and Few and Night Moves, Breithaupt Brothers, Just Passing Through. Basically, just get into his little world and learn everything, because you know he's going to be back again and again.
Yes, please cover my entire resume. That would be lovely.
Well, you have to celebrate his entire catalog. Well, again, we thank Tom, we thank Mark, we thank Jay, obviously we thank Don, and here comes my top 10 list. See you next time, everybody.
Time ago in a record store, there was a top 10 list by a big glass door. Full color posters stuck on the wall with the top 10 singles, and they had them all. I went in every day saying, hey, what's new? I dreamed someday I'd have a top 10 too. And sugar I do. It goes you, water, oxygen, food, sleep, shelter, yes, and then all the rest of it. Music, sun, single malt, double shot, triple fun. So in reverse, sorta like countdowns do. Sleep, food, oxygen, water, and you. My top 10 list. My top 10 list. Later I was looking to escape some pain. Fly somewhere on a big ass plane. Had to think out a link to a big display with the top 10 spots just to get away. I picked number 7 with the heavenly view, the double book flight, and that's where I met you. My escape come true. To review. You, water, oxygen, food, sleep, shelter, yes, and then all the rest of it. Music, sun, single malt, double shot, triple fun. So in reverse, sorta like countdowns do. Sleep, food, oxygen, water, and you. My top 10 list. My top 10 list. Kill around and margaritas. Hear the smash hits of day. Fly the sky, blue skies. Dry your big green eyes and play where the dolphins play. And then all the rest of it. Music, sun, single malt, double shot, triple fun. So in reverse, sorta like countdowns do. You, water, oxygen, food, sleep, shelter, yes, and then all the rest of it. Music, sun, single malt, double shot, triple fun. So in reverse, sorta like countdowns do. Sleep, food, oxygen, water. My top 10 list. My top 10 list. watched you play this scene, and I've come to know you well. So you must be crazy. Try to use those words on me, 'cause we both know your show won't reveal the one thing you can't tell. Tell anyone that you can't find. Anyone you can be sure of. And you run and leave behind everyone who chances your love. Won't stay, no way. I can't watch your sad ballet, 'cause I've lived through each new rush. But okay, if you must dance, last chance, walk me round this mad romance where your best schemes, bad dreams might come true if you could only touch anyone that you can find. Anyone you can be sure of. And you run and leave behind everyone who chances your love. I hear myself saying it, so it must be true. No sense in delaying it.